Chapter 5, verse 5. In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. And now it's with pleasure I have you welcome Adam Winkenhofer, who's going to bring our message to us today. And I've known Adam. He came up to the junior high when I was there. And it's just good to see you doing this, Adam. Glad to have you and your wife here.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to take this time to thank you for inviting us to your church. Ashley and I feel very welcome here, and just really thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. Matt contacted me a couple months ago, and well, would you be interested? Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to crawl outside of my comfort zone on this one, because I'm used to, when Pastor Phil's gone, hey, can you fill in? Yeah, familiar faces. So to come out here is just a true blessing, and definitely something I'm not used to. So bear with me. I've struggled with this sermon. God led me to this, and He's going to have to take control on it. But a humble heart. Earlier this week, I got this passage from a devotional that I read. I get my daily devotionals. Being a younger generation, I get mine on my cell phone. And usually about 8 o'clock at work, things start calming down, and I get my daily Bible verse and my daily devotional. And I read that, and this really struck my heart. And it does that because of the world we're living in today. We're in a world today where to be humble and have humility in our lives is a characteristic that is not looked favorably upon. And I hate to say that, but it's true. So what does a humble heart look like? What does it act like? What is a humble heart? And I look through the Bible, and I've got some verses I'm going to touch on today as what a humble heart really is, and what a humble heart shouldn't be, and how God instructs us to guard ourselves about what is a boastful heart, and instructs us to lead us to a humble heart. I want to start out by talking about an earthly humble heart. There's two humble hearts. You got your spiritual and you got your earthly. Your earthly humble heart is what we do every day. Look at your athletes today. Most of your professional athletes, how often do you hear them humble themselves? Not very often. Professional baseball players, football players, basketball players, doesn't matter. They're concerned about one thing, money. The other thing would be fame. That's all they're concerned with. There are very few out there who really give back to what it means to be humble. I can think of two predominant sports figures, and I'm going to use both of them as an example this morning. And then I'll get into the Bible verse. First one is Tim Tebow. Everybody knows Tim Tebow for the most part, right? Football player for the Denver Broncos. Did really well. Took them almost to the Super Bowl. And every chance he got, he gave thanks back to God. Coming up through college, he won 2 or 3 national championships. He had a Bible verse on his little black patch that he would put underneath his eye. Nobody said anything really in college. Then he got to the professional world. Well, you can't do that. That's not right. That's not what we talk about. He always gave glory to God. He had a pure heart. At least he tried to. He tried to live Christian values. He was shunned to the point sports teams did not want him. They did not want him on their team because he was humble and a Christian. They refused to sign him. Now, he's not a Joe Montana or a Peyton Manning or anything like that. Don't get me wrong there. But he was a young player who had talent. And he was blacklisted because he was a Christian and he was humble. That's sad. You get sports athletes out there who do drugs, who are abusive, who do all the wrong things, get arrested, but they're touted and they're put at the top. They'll give them more money because, you know what, they're a good player. You don't ever hear them humble themselves. Well, sorry I did that. 2 weeks later, they're back in the news, they did it again. Are you really sorry? That is not a humble earthly heart. Another example, many of you may not know, is Stephon Curry. I don't like basketball. I live in Indiana. I understand. I don't like basketball. It's just, I used to back when Michael Jordan and all those guys played, but anymore, there's no humble players. Until Stephon Curry came into the scene. He's been in the league 3 years. 3 or 4. He's won 2 championships, 2 MVPs. This guy is awesome. At his press conferences, his little girl is right there with him. At his press conferences. He had a sponsored by Nike for tennis shoes. Stephon Curry, before every basketball game, would write a Bible verse. A passage. Look in a passage on his shoes. And one basketball game, it got advertised on television. So Nike got a hold of Mr. Curry and said, can't do that. We don't want that on our shoes. That's not what we stand for. That's offensive. Well, another clothing line by the name of Under Armour found this out. And they reached out to him and they said, you know what? You're a good player. You're humble. Not only are we going to sponsor with you with shoes, but before every game, you tell us what Bible verse you want on your shoes, and we'll print it for you. We're not going to make you write it. We're going to print it for you. And he gave all that glory back to God. This guy is setting records every year. He is one of the top basketball players out there right now. And he's humble. He's a Christian. He loves God. And he is true at heart. Thankfully, the world hasn't shunned him yet. But he has got a humble earthly heart. I want to read something. A verse. And this is out of 1 John. And it's chapter 2, verses 16 through 18. For everything in the world, the lust of flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, comes not from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. Now I'm going to come out of the celebrity world and the sports figure world and come into the Christian world. A lot of times as Christians, we can fall prey to falling under this verse. We don't mean to, but we do. And we can have a prideful earthly heart, whether it's a desire for money, possessions. And I want to stop right here. If God has blessed you with whatever God has blessed you, that's okay. That's a good thing. It's a blessing from God. So don't think that I'm talking down. God has blessed Ashley and I beyond our means. And it's all God. It's not us. It's not anything we've done. God has done it all for us. But we as Christians, it's so easy to lose sight of His blessings and start to fall prey to the earthly desires. Then you start falling prey to other sins. We no longer become humble. It's, well, what I did. Yeah, I did that. I got that. I worked the overtime. And we lose sight of what God has done for us. So whatever you do, wherever you're at in life, don't forget what God has done for you. Your earthly possessions, I'll call them, your earthly accomplishments, that's all God. He did all that. Don't lose sight of it. Don't lose sight of where you started at and where God has brought you to. If you do that, if you stay true to God's Word, and you remember this verse, it will help you to have a humble earthly heart. So we've got an earthly heart, but we've got a spiritual heart. What is a humble spiritual heart? There's one example that we all need to look at, and that is Jesus. Jesus had a humble spiritual heart. His spiritual heart was so humble that it led to his death. That he humbled himself to the point of death for our sins. Amen? That is true humility. He was spit upon. He was ridiculed. All of it. But you know what? He stayed true to God the Father. And he packed it up with Bible verses. And I've got 3 passages I want to read to you about what a humble spiritual heart really is. And I'm going to start out in Micah. We'll go back to the Old Testament. It's Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Walk humbly with your God. That is a spiritual heart right there. Humble yourself before God. The other verse is in James, chapter 4, verse 10. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up. And finally, 1 Peter, chapter 3, verse 8. Finally, all of you, be like-minded. Be sympathetic. Love one another. Be compassionate and humble. Many times, as Christians, we can lose sight of being humble. I did. I'm going to tell you a story about my past, and I'm not proud of it. And I missed an opportunity. I missed an opportunity to be a humble servant of God, and I'll never get that chance back. Back in 2009, I was stationed at Fort Benning in the Army. I got activated and sent down there to train troops. I'm proud of my service. I had another drill sergeant down there with me, and he's not a believer. And I don't remember how it all came up, but we got to talk about the Bible and God, and what's real and what's not. And he said something, and man, he made me so mad. And I finally looked at him and said, you know what, I know enough about the Bible that I could really put you in your place. And that right there, that's when I blew it. I had a chance to save his soul, and I blew it. And I will never get that chance back. Because I let pride get in my way. There's a man walking around on this earth, and I missed the opportunity. And I'm going to have to answer to God for that. Don't lose sight of these verses. Don't let pride get in your spiritual heart. If you know the Bible well, and even if you don't, and somebody comes to you, don't let pride and anger get in your way. Fill your heart with the love of Christ. Go to that person. Talk to them. Lift them up. You don't have to know this book front to back. If you're a Christian and God has worked in your life, you can share that miracle with somebody who may not be a believer. And that may be just the situation that they're going through. And that may be just enough that that person makes the conversion right then and there. And you will not make the same mistake that I did, because I let pride get in my way. I see it in churches too. When I first started as a young Christian, I always used the term my church. It's not my church. It's not our church. It's God's church. A lot of times we get so proud of what's going on that we don't even know it, we might lose that humility of God's blessing and God's Spirit. And we might start trying to take a little bit of credit for what He has done in our church. So as you go on and you go out, just remember, it's not your church. It's God's church. And think about it next time you're talking to somebody. And change that wording. talk to somebody, why don't you come to my church? Hey, I'd like you to come to church next Sunday. Come on out here to New Mexico Church of the Brother. I'd really like you to come to this service, to God's house, and worship. I guarantee you the look on their face is going to blow you off your feet. They're going to look at you and go, what? Come on to God's church. It's not my church. It's God's church. I'm just a member of His family. I'm just a guest in His house. If you do that, if you humble yourself to that and give God the glory that this is His, in here, inside these walls, this is God's church. If you do that, you're going to strike a little bit different tone with the person that you're talking to. We as Christians, we have to display the humility of Christ. In today's society, it's not there. Christ is being pushed out. God is being pushed out. But if we, us, Christians, God's children, if we keep a humble heart, no matter how dark the night is, how bad it gets, through God's humility and God keeping us humble and us keeping these verses that God has laid out for us, clear-cut instructions to keep a humble heart, we're going to reach so many people. We, as Christians, are going to be that light, that beacon, that hope that so many people are seeking. And if you do this, I mean, look at Christ. Look at how humble His heart was as He was being beaten, ridiculed on the day of His crucifixion. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. That is humility. Forgive somebody if they've wronged you. Humble your heart. It might hurt, and it might cut you to the bone. But you have to humble yourself. Ask for forgiveness or forgive them. Whether you wrong or you were wrong, it doesn't matter. If you humble yourself before the cross and you take a moment and you let your anger go, let your pride go, and you put that off to the side and you go to God and you prepare your spiritual heart and you humble yourself before that person that you might have wronged, that will speak volumes. That will set you on a new path. That will give you a peace in your heart that you might not have ever known. Just as Christ did. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. As He did the thief on the cross. Tonight you will die with me in paradise. He humbled Himself. He forgave. Whatever God has blessed you with, use that. Whatever it may be, a talent or whatever. Use that to humble your heart. And use that to teach those around you. God has blessed me richly in the ability to fish. I can't play football, I can't play basketball, I can't play baseball, but God has blessed me with the ability to fish. And through that ability, I take peace in knowing that I can take that and teach people. And through that blessing that He has given me, not only can I teach them a hobby, but there's so much that you can incorporate from the Bible into fishing. If you play golf well, you can incorporate it into golf. If you play baseball well, you can incorporate it into baseball. If you just humble yourself, go to your Bible, prepare your heart spiritually. Whatever God has blessed you with, talent-wise or whatever. Maybe you're a little bit older in the church, but you've got a wealth of knowledge. You're the knowledge base of the church. Then humble yourself. Teach. Share that knowledge. Pass it on to somebody. Pass your experiences on. Just as I did. Don't miss that opportunity. Humble your heart. Prepare your heart through God. In closing, we've got to prepare both of our hearts. We've got to prepare our earthly heart and our spiritual heart. Just as Christ did. He had a very humble earthly heart, but he had a very humble spiritual heart. Love those around you, even when it's the most difficult thing that you do. And that goes for everybody. Me, you, love those around you. Somebody may have wronged you or may have made you mad, but the Bible and God tells us to love them. And if you take that pride out of your heart and throw it off to the side and you cast it out, and you go to God, prepare me, break my heart. If you humble yourself before the cross, He's going to fill you with His love and His forgiveness. You're going to be able to forgive, and He will forgive you. Do not judge, but strive to live by the verse in Micah. Always seek justice. Love mercy. And walk humbly with your God. If you do that, then 1 Peter will ring true. In the same way, you are younger. Submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another. Because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to come into God's house and share a little bit with you this morning. I appreciate it. May the Lord bless you in the coming days and weeks.
Pray with me, please. Father, you do reign. You are sovereign. And we are so blessed to be a part of your family. Lord, I thank you for speaking through Adam today, for bringing us a message that we each need to hear. I pray, Lord, that you would help us to digest it, to make it a part of us, and that we won't walk away from here today forgetting what we heard you give to us. I pray that we will seek you each and every day and pray for a humble heart to follow in Christ's footsteps. Lord, don't leave us as we are, but continue to work in us until we are perfected in Christ Jesus. And we give you praise and glory in Jesus' name.